now in the SnapLogic session at the Enterprise Integration Summit. Welcome, and let me introduce you to our speaker this morning, Michael Nixon, Vice President of Product Marketing at SnapLogic. Michael, welcome.
Hi, glad to be here.
We're glad to have Michael with us this morning, too. He currently leads the SnapLogic product marketing team and has 20 years of marketing experience in IT. And prior to joining SnapLogic, in fact, Michael was Senior Director of Product Marketing at Snowflake, among other large technology companies. His session this morning is entitled The Future of Enterprise Automation. And in it, we're going to take a look at the recent trends in digital transformation. You know, many have looked at integration as a key to delivering digital transformation, and it's a watchword for many enterprises. But as time passes, it's become clear to many companies that it's not been a panacea for solving execution and agility issues. So luckily for us, in this session, Michael will detail how to resolve the pitfalls with digital transformation. In particular, he'll share how SnapLogic's vision for impactful enterprise automation is really changing the game. So I'm looking forward to this session. Hopefully you are as well. Quick reminder, you can download Michael's slides. Just hit the big red button on the view screen. We've also got a great set of valuable click assets for you below. Just click any of the links that appeal to you. They'll be yours right away without any registration. And to connect with Michael, just type in the submit a question area. So with that, Michael, let me turn to you and tell us about the future is enterprise automation.
Great. Happy to get going. Yes, to everyone. Again, happy to be here. I have a presentation queued up for you. The future is enterprise automation, here today with intelligent data and application integrated. So let's just dive in and get to it. I tell you, I talk with many customers and many stakeholders throughout the world, and there's one thing, regardless of how we all approach deploying our integration solution, there's a few things that all of us want in terms of what every organization wants. All of us want to deliver products and service to market faster. We want to provide better customer experiences. I mean, that's why I'm here. And we all want to achieve amazing business results. At the end of the day, this is what we all are shooting for. In these days, or in these times, to achieve these amazing business results and faster outcomes, many of us are relying on the cloud for digital transformation. That sounds great in theory, right? You go from on-premises, you go into the cloud, you boost agility. However, there's a downside to this. As you boost your agility, the number of applications grow. In fact, we did a survey throughout the US and Europe, and we surveyed over 500 IT decision makers. And through that survey, we discovered that many of you have an average of 115 applications within your company environment. The larger the environment, obviously, or the larger the company, the more applications you'll see. And at 115 applications and growing quite rapidly, that presents a number of challenges. First of all, let's understand the role of applications in a typical business environment. As we all know, applications really are the cornerstones of business processes, whether those business processes are spend or procure to pay or quote to cash or some customer 360 journey or what have you. That's the ideal. You are moving data from marketing to sales to HR to analytics or what have you to execute some of these business flows as an example. But when you have so many applications, with each of these applications having their own level of connectivity, meaning different levels of connectivity to other applications or to data. In some cases, the connectivity is complete and is built in other cases it's not. Maybe documentation isn't super clear. The point is, as you move to the cloud, you incur more applications, and each of these applications actually might be an environment onto themselves. So you have many apps, and as a result, apps don't talk with data because of the lack of connectivity or the friction in terms of connecting from application to application or application to data. So this introduces a level of pain and delay in your environment. So in other words, you're creating silos in effect, and those silos stall you from an integration perspective, and it hampers business results. And that's really the state of the union in terms of many companies as they adopt applications in the cloud. And so at the end of the day, we're able to conclude that silos is a major problem. And in fact, that survey that I referenced earlier 83% of our IT decision makers were not completely satisfied, for example, with the performance and the output of their data warehousing initiative. And the reason why is because among those 83%, 89% indicated that silos was the main worry that was holding them back. So silos are a key inhibitor or a key blocker to your success. So at SnapLogic, we view the world differently. We believe that when you bring SnapLogic into your environment, you are able to eliminate those barriers, and therefore you're able to integrate apps and data a little more effectively. I shouldn't say a little more, but a lot more effectively, with more efficiency and certainly better productivity among your IT staff. In fact, you can reach out to or extend SnapLogic into the LOB audience or to the business users, and you can empower them. And whether you're IT or whether you're an LOB user, you have a level of self-service within the SnapLogic environment. And so by being able to orchestrate application and data integration, now you're more free to flow data from different functions or from different applications amongst one another, or to complete a complete business process, for example. And as a result, your IT organization will be happier because they feel they're more productive, or they have a platform that empowers them to be more efficient. You have business users who are satisfied and happy because now they have an environment for which they can actually use that's not too technical for them, nor does it slow them down. And then at the end of the day, this all means that we generate faster business results because everyone is working more efficiently and more effectively in terms of productivity. But it's not just limited to worker productivity and efficiency. It's about enabling these business processes to generate better business results, which could translate to actually more growth or more revenue into your environment. So this is the future state, how we see the SnapLogic Intelligent iPaaS platform, obviously iPaaS, integration platform as a service. And enterprise automation comes into play because as you execute these business processes from end to end, the data flow is triggered either by maybe some time-bounded activity or time-bounded trigger or some activity-based trigger. And by having these triggers in place, establishing them, or the logic in this case, within the environment, you're able to orchestrate these business flows. And to the extent you can orchestrate and then automate these business flows, this is where we're able to achieve enterprise automation and therefore automate your business. Now, we spoke about business drivers from a digital transformation perspective. However, in current times, we know there's more to it than just being more efficient and more productive within your own environment to grow business. It's about now, how do you operate effectively in a health crisis where perhaps the number of remote workers have increased, or maybe there's increased needs to have contactless or touchless business processes, and being able to drive those processes through the system as opposed to through individuals manually hand-holding paper, transferring paper between one another, and or being able to operate remotely with some level of self-sufficiency. So the health crisis of today is just another driver, enterprise automation, right along with digital transformation and, of course, being able to reduce human error and therefore have higher levels of self-sufficiency within your remote workforce. And just for what it's worth, from a health crisis perspective, this survey from Twilio I like a lot, because they went out and they surveyed thousands of IT individuals or IT decision makers, similar to as we did ourselves. They were able to determine that 97% of enterprise decision makers indicate that the pandemic is speeding up their company's digital transformation. In fact, as you pour through the data, many digital transformation initiatives are increased or accelerated by as much as 6 years. So we know that the current climate in terms of the health crisis, or the pandemic, if you prefer, is really driving many organizations throughout the world to operate more effectively, more efficiently, and also being able to empower remote workforces. So at the end of the day, when we summarize it or add it all up, enterprise automation really is all about integrating apps, flowing data between apps, and to automate business processes. So that's what we mean at a high level. Now, if that's not intuitive enough, I've created just a quick, cute little PowerPoint animation to walk you through how we can orchestrate enterprise automation within the SnapLogic environment. In this particular case, we're looking at an onboarding and offboarding use case. In other words, an end-to-end HCM or human capital management or HR process, if you prefer. So let's say we have this fictitious applicant who's going to apply. You already have a job rec in Workday. You use an applicant management solution like JobBlite. It could be Taleo or any number of applicant management solution or applicant tracking solution if you prefer ATS. And let's say we now have this applicant, they apply through JobBlite. Once they do that, the data is created, and that data therefore will be synced with the requisition data that you have in Workday. Now let's just continue the scenario and say that applicant is hired. So the applicant is hired, employee data is now created, and in the course of creating employee data, payroll is going to be set up. So now that data is going to flow to ADP. And again, this is orchestrated through the triggers based on the activity of the applicant being hired and therefore being issued employee number, and obviously payroll administration is going to happen. So payroll is set up. And then from there, perhaps the data now flows into your IT services management solution. It could be ServiceNow as shown here in this illustration. And so IT resources are administered to your new hire. And let's say that new hire now is on board. It's going to be managed through his or her manager, or her manager as it is in this case. Performance is managed. Again, you're going to have job specification within Workday. You're going to use an employee performance management tool like 7Geese. In fact, here within SnapLogic, we use 7Geese. It could be another sort of solution like Kudos if you prefer. And the point is data flows from Workday in terms of the job specification or job reg into 7Geese. 7Geese will manage objectives of that particular employee and milestones and recognition and things of that nature. Some of it might be fed back into Workday. And let's just say over time, this employee is a superstar. She receives a pay raise. Data flows back into ADP in terms of finance and payroll. And then over time, let's say 3 years down the road, your superstar decides she wants to leave. And so now data can be deprovisioned, if you will, from the systems, beginning with her IT equipment. All of that now is turned back in the course of turning in the equipment and deprovisioning this employee. You're now going to deactivate all of her data, her communication perhaps. Maybe that communication comes out of Slack, it may come out of email and or other applications. But the point is the apps are disabled and data is deprovisioned, or if not fully terminated, maybe it's archived. And so all of that can be orchestrated through the SnapLogic environment from an automation point of view. So now let's just say the scenario is files have been archived or terminated, the applications have been terminated, and now the application is out the door. Now, conceivably, in today's world, that employee could come back. Data can come out of the archives and then basically be made live again, and the process will restart or kick in terms of the rehire. And that is how you can achieve perhaps a rehiring process. So at a high level, this is what we mean by enterprise automation. Basically the flow of data between apps and or to your analytic solution. Ultimately, if you wanted to do some data insights, you could do that as well. And data can flow bi-directional. So hopefully this illustration that I walked you through demonstrates that it's not all one way. It can be bi-directional. So how this worked with various companies that we've have enabled with enterprise automation. So first of all, understand that SnapLogic, since we were founded back in 2013, we have now grown to where we are processing well over 1.3 trillion documents per month. In fact, as of the last update, I am now sure that we're closer to 1.6 trillion documents being processed per month, and we continue to grow quite rapidly. And here you see a few examples of customers or clients that have succeeded rather well implementing SnapLogic. So let's just walk through a few of these stories here. we have Adobe. Adobe grew its market capitalization from 34 billion to over 200 billion in 5 years. During that time, we had SnapLogic installed, and Adobe was able to save over $105 million in costs, with 50 million of that being direct cost savings, meaning by adopting SnapLogic, we were able to save them just directly 50 million in terms of platform costs relative to the legacy environment they had prior to SnapLogic. And then we were able to save them 55 million in indirect costs, meaning all of the productivity advantages and efficiency advantages that we had talked about leading up to this slide. They were able to realize that through SnapLogic. Their use case, by the way, was sales analytics. And as you see through the illustration, a number of applications we were able to integrate within their environment, including Salesforce, Anaplan, Oracle, Tableau, and others. So let's consider that applications and databases, not just applications. A second example would be Magellan Healthcare. Magellan Healthcare doubled their revenue to over $7.5 billion in 3 years. During that time, they acquired 6 companies. And as you would imagine, acquiring 6 companies means you have 6 systems, you have 6 HR systems, you have perhaps 6 CRM systems. And so their challenge was, how do we absorb or acquire these 6 companies, consolidate the platforms into a single platform while still managing the same IT budget, meaning both in terms of IT budget in terms of dollars, as well as IT resources in terms of headcount. And Magellan was able to consolidate all of these 6 companies' CRM and HCM business flows onto SnapLogic. And so now they have a consistent platform across now these subsidiaries, and they're able to manage data flows effectively and efficiently with, relatively speaking, a much smaller IT staff compared to the combination of resources that would have been the case had they had 6 individual divisions. So as you can see here through the illustration, their applications and databases included Salesforce, Workday, Microsoft Dynamics, along with Oracle and ServiceNow. Lastly, I like to highlight Box. Box is powering well over 1,400 integrations with SnapLogic, driving both revenue and services behind the scenes in terms of integration support. They have achieved within a quarter nearly 12 billion in terms of records moved across SnapLogic and our integration platform through either direct pipelines or through some sort of API management effort. They also had achieved nearly 350,000 API calls per quarter on SnapLogic, and this produced 539% better volume in terms of the number of integrations achieved with their SnapLogic environment relative to the environment that they had previous to SnapLogic. So Box, as we all know, is a cloud storage environment. So they had the need to integrate applications outside of Box. And here you see that captured again in terms of examples of applications being integrated across the Box environment. So at a high level, here are use cases that we can point to that demonstrate really, again, the power of SnapLogic to both streamline your efforts from an integration perspective and also give you a powerful integration platform that allows you to generate more revenue, more growth, while at the same time achieving amazing organizational efficiencies from an integration perspective. So when you think of SnapLogic, there are just 2 words that I want you to think about: simplicity and power. And we combine that in one platform. So in terms of simplicity, we deliver ease of use, low code capability or no code capability if you prefer, self-service, and we feature well over 500 pre-built connections. So for leading applications of which you need to integrate between data sources, the likelihood is we have a connector for it in SnapLogic. And then in terms of our powerful capabilities, we're driven as a platform that enables, by the way, artificial intelligence assisted integration, which we refer to as Iris, the AI assistant for building your integrations. And what that AI assistant does is basically project the next step necessary in building your integration pipeline. So we call that the next step recommendation engine. So that might speed your pipeline development for perhaps users that would need a little more guided interface for building those integrations. Plus we have, as you would expect, all of the high level security and capabilities from an enterprise scale perspective. All of this leads up to our ability to create those automated workflows. So this is what sets SnapLogic apart, against simplicity and powerful capabilities. Now, from an architecture perspective, it looks like this. And what I want you to think about is what's in the middle here. This is the SnapLogic platform here. We combine a number of integration capabilities, from application integration to API management to data automation to data engineering to fully facilitating operational supports for building out ML AI models. And when I say operational support, I mean things along the lines of helping you cleanse data, prep data for modeling, and so forth. And we can orchestrate all of this between endpoints. Endpoints to us are just connectivity points. These endpoints can be designated as sources. They can be designated as target. You're not locked in to any one way to design your integration as it relates to these endpoints. And so even today, as you can see highlighted in terms of endpoints, we can engage with perhaps third-party solutions that might provide some robotic processing capabilities, from some additional automation capabilities. So from an enterprise perspective, we're talking about moving data between applications and flowing data, but perhaps you need something along the lines of, say, for example, doing some automatic invoice processing. And part of that would be being able to optically scan maybe a physical invoice into a system, and that system will generate data that could be fed into SnapLogic. So if you have an RPA solution that does that sort of thing, meaning the scanning of invoices, why it's an opportunity for us to integrate with that solution to get that data into our environment. Another example from a customer I just recently spoke with, it might be to enact touchless business processes or just touchless processes. For example, one of our customers deploys what I would say are devices in sports stadiums to alert when a particular restroom is needing service. But prior to the pandemic, maybe that button or that request for cleaning services was activated through a push button. Well, today you would want contactless resources in place. And so now they switch from a physical push button to a QR code type of device to solicit that request that would be fed into, obviously, the service to come in and clean an environment. And so that QR code will register a scan, create data, and that data now is flowed and orchestrated to the service environment. And all of that is done, collected in terms of the data is collected and sent to the service environment through SnapLogic. So again, working with sensors, working with data collection devices, working with applications, flowing data between those applications and data for whatever that business process is, that is what we are enabling with SnapLogic. And we serve a number of communities, from business analysts to IT architects to integration and data specialists and so on, as you can read from the slide. And in terms of the business processes, is basically whatever you can imagine that could be built with the 500 pre-built connectors that we have available. Or if you need to do a custom application, for example, and do custom objects and connect to those objects, why you can use our REST and SOAP API connectors to generate those special or custom integrations. So all in all, what we're able to do through SnapLogic is essentially allow you to consolidate a number of integration operations onto a single platform. So imagine, if you will, current state where perhaps you have point-to-point integrations enabled or empowered through a specific SaaS solution, and that could be a problem. One-off integrations could be a problem. You prefer not to do one-off integrations, or perhaps you prefer to have a platform where you can do integration between SaaS applications. And let's say you also have a need to develop and publish your own APIs. And so just imagine now you can get rid of all these individual tools, including tools that are necessary to migrate data from an on-premises environment to the cloud. Just eliminate a majority of those tools, and now you can consolidate all of them onto SnapLogic and consider SnapLogic your integration fabric that complements your application and data fabric, from which you would do all of your enterprise activities, whether it be the business processes or maybe it's analytics in the case of the database/data warehouse. So SnapLogic is a platform that allows you to consolidate these integration activities. Now, I've given you a few actual customer data points in terms of references and successes. However, we're also recognized in the industry by other, what we'll say are industry analysts or third-party organizations. You see them highlighted here. In one case, we have the CODiE Award, where SnapLogic was voted the best integration platform as a service in 2020. And this was awarded by the Software Information Industry Association. And again, their award here is the CODiE Award. And if you're unfamiliar with the CODiE, it's basically a mechanism to have peer review of a particular platform. So we were peer reviewed versus other competitors in this space. And through a couple of rounds of reviews, we were deemed the best integration solution. So we're very proud of that achievement. We commissioned Forrester to take a look at a couple of our customer environments to determine the level of ROI that was achieved. So in other words, don't take our word for it. Take a look at the detailed data that was provided by Forrester, or conducted by Forrester, detailed research, I should say, conducted by Forrester to determine the level of ROI that's achievable with SnapLogic. And as you see captured here on the slide, over 498% in terms of ROI was achieved. And by the way, we were able to do that in the shortest time of any integration platform. And this, by the way, is something I hear consistently as I engage with many of you out there, and why you engage with SnapLogic. Not only is it powerful in terms of capability, but your self-service capabilities through SnapLogic enables you to turn around integrations much faster. And we're very proud of that achievement. And then in addition, we have been recognized through other industry analysts or industry surveys or industry reviews, if you prefer, through Gartner, for example, and others. And in fact, we are now listed as a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant for iPaaS, and we've achieved this for 5 years running. So again, recognition for SnapLogic from third-party industry sources, as well as success stories with individual customers. And I want to leave that thought with you as you think about your needs for enterprise automation, especially today in the age of the pandemic and health crisis, and especially in the age of having to do more either with less, or you're having to achieve more growth and more potential in your respective marketplaces, and being able to do that with a tool that will enable you to really harness all the power of your data and applications through a platform that allows that integration. And so this is what we see as the future of enterprise automation. And we think we're just at the tip of the iceberg, or just really at an opening point of this being a growing area that many of you will be looking into. And we're excited to be here today to talk through this and present to you why you would want to consider SnapLogic for your enterprise automation requirements. So with that, I want to thank you for listening to what I had to say. And this concludes my formal presentation of the future of enterprise automation. So I'd like to now turn it over to Vance for questions.
Michael, excellent. Really great look at the state of iPaaS here in 2021. Really appreciate your time and going into some great technical details. So terrific. With your permission, I know we've got some questions. How about we get to them?
Sure, absolutely.
Let's talk about the iPaaS space in general, Michael, and where you see SnapLogic fitting in. Certainly many of our attendees are familiar with it and may even have picked another flavor of an iPaaS. How would you say SnapLogic distinguishes itself in this space, especially for app and data integration?
I believe you just hit on the point. When you look at other iPaaSes, they might do very well in one particular area, for example, application integration. Perhaps They manage APIs very nicely and have nice hooks into an API gateway, or maybe it's just focused in the application area. Then you have others, they might consider themselves an iPaaS solution in the cloud and they do data integration very well. They can consolidate multiple data sources into a common unified data warehouse of choice. Where we excel in SnapLogic is we can do both. We can do application integration and data integration. So if you wanted to move operational data among applications, or if you wanted to manage APIs through our platform, you can do that. In addition, you can also do the data integration. So you can consolidate multiple data sources into a unified data structure or a data store, if you will, or you can combine the operational data flow with the post-operational data, meaning the analytics data. So the combination of doing both is where we excel, app and data integration, plus all the other goodness that we can include inside of SnapLogic, like data engineering capabilities, which include regression analysis, machine learning, AI capabilities, for example. All of that is built into the SnapLogic platform. So we combine it all.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. Another question here, Michael. We've gotten this a lot today, this idea of low-code integration. Some folks think it's a great enabler. Other people are a little on the skeptical side. And let me read you this question. I think it's a really good one. Low-code feels a lot like hype to us. What does it mean to SnapLogic, and what are some of the benefits you're seeing?
Low code, no code is certainly an industry buzzword at the least that has gotten a lot of attention, and I can understand why this attendee might be asking that question. But in reality, it really is a legitimate capability that we can deliver through SnapLogic. So while we have a visual user interface and you can build these snaps, snap them together, visually speaking, like Lego blocks, and that certainly makes the design of a pipeline very easy. If you wanted to do some tweaking or some customizing, why you would do or employ a little bit of scripting to do that. And so that's where low code aspect of it comes into play. No code for us means literally no coding. So we have an offering like our Fast Data Loader, which is relatively new. And this is a somewhat classic point and click type of wizard where there's no coding involved. So that is not hype. That's real delivered capability. So through our Fast Data Loader, you select the source destination that you want among the available source destinations that we place into our Fast Data Loader. Then you move it along to one of the available destinations, and all of the background pipeline is created for you as part of that Fast Data Loader service. And so there's no coding involved. So again, we're delivering both no code and low code capabilities through our platform. So I believe it's quite real for us.
Excellent, Michael. And it's a really great question because I think a lot of it kind of follows on where IT really sees the user's going to be. And I have a question here about that. Can you give examples of how SnapLogic is suitable for a business or a citizen integrator? We've been a bit reluctant about letting anyone but IT do integration in our company.
Yeah, SnapLogic has a range of capabilities. So one of the magical things about SnapLogic, as I hear from customers directly themselves, is that you can basically go down as deep as you like into our platform, but that also means we can stay fairly high level. So when you're a business user, perhaps if you're moving a fairly traditional endpoint like Salesforce to a common destination endpoint, meaning some cloud data warehouse, for example, then it might just be a matter of architecting those endpoints, snapping them together through our visual interface, as I said, and you're off and running. So it might take just a small amount of ramp up and learning to do that. And so we find that that will be suitable for business users with some inkling of how to configure the pipeline that they would like. And so we do find some success there because I can quote a number of customers from Adobe with us who have well over 1,000 users on our platform. I can think of companies like AstraZeneca, the company that produced one of the COVID-19 vaccines. They used our product fairly extensively amongst their research of the vaccine, meaning their researchers were building their data integration pipelines. And in fact, in their own words, they have well over 450 non-technical users building pipelines or using integrations through SnapLogic. And another company, Pitney Bowes, they have hundreds of users on SnapLogic. And I can go on and on. I think of T. Rowe Price, who has said the same thing. And so when you hear those sort of numbers, that indicates that the appeal for the SnapLogic product is well beyond just the IT.
Just a quick follow-up on that, Michael. So it's obvious that a lot of your drag and drop and abstraction of technical kind of gnarly coding issues really helps that non-technical or citizen integrator. But I get the sense, too, that you give these non-technical folks a little bit of a guide or a recipe of what they're actually doing as they go step by step. Is that a fair way to describe how you help jumpstart citizen integrators?
Well, as part of our platform, we have some built-in artificial intelligence capabilities. The specific function is called our Iris integration assistant. And what Iris is next step recommendation engine, if you will. And think of something like if you go into Amazon.com based on your previous visit, they'll put in front of you items that might be of interest that might elicit a click from you into that product. So think of our next step recommendation engine as similar in function. So based on an endpoint that you might select as your starting source, then our artificial intelligence assistant will predict, if you will, the likely next step in that process of building the pipeline. Will present that next step to you, and it's your option to take it or not. And if you choose not to take it, well, that's great. That's more metadata that we put into our artificial intelligence environments to build better recommendations into the future. Or if you do decide to click on the recommendation that was put in front of you, then it'll get built into the pipeline, and it'll continue to do that, i.e. put the next step in the pipeline build in front of you until the actual pipeline is completed. So that guided interface, if you will, through our artificial intelligence capability is how we help the real novice users on SnapLogic to build their pipelines from the very first step till the final stage in that pipeline.
Wow, that's great, Michael. It sounds kind of like I've got this sort of AI co-pilot then. It's not just a fixed template. It's things that actually react to my very next step each time.
Actually, that's a great phrase or terminology, AI co-pilot. So can I get privileged to use that?
Yeah, of course. Yes, of course you can. One last question here, Michael. I see time is just flying by here. This has been a great session and a great Q&A. But before we go, we can't let you leave without having you tell us about how folks can learn more about the SnapLogic architecture. We talked a lot about the differentiation. And also if folks can take a free trial or maybe a custom demo.
For sure, go to our website, which is snaplogic.com. We'll provide a number of resources available to you there. I also like to promote our YouTube channel, which is SnapLogic in YouTube. And then lastly, in terms of the free trial, we have a couple of options for you. We have our standard 30-day free trial, and that gives you access to close to our full product capabilities, and you'll be able to test out these snaps and put them to work for a period of 30 days. And then we have another free experience, which is something I mentioned earlier, our fast data loader. Our fast data loader is specifically for just data loading into a cloud data warehouse like perhaps Snowflake, Redshift, or maybe even SAP Data Warehouse Cloud. And the nice thing about our fast data loader is you can move up to 1 million records per month for free. And if you want to take it even further and request a custom demo, why again, visit our website and click on the button to request a demo.
Wow, fantastic. Lots of options, lots of choices. Michael Nixon, Vice President of Product Marketing at SnapLogic. Thanks again for a great session, and especially for taking so many questions.
Yeah, sure. It's my pleasure, and it was great to be here.
Yeah, we really enjoyed it too. And Michael listed so many different options. We've got many of them listed right here. In fact, in the breakout room, you'll notice that there's a big red button where you can get Michael's terrific slides, along with the assets that he talked about for follow-up, for both learning more and actually going hands-on with trials. And just a quick note, lots going on at SnapLogic, as we saw today. Here is a slide that will take you directly to the SnapLogic website. All these links will be live once you download Michael's slides. And again, thanks again, everyone, for coming, and some great questions.